Both Mandy said firmly, but we'll start with the Moscow problem. Other Moscows from Portia breeder could be coming down with the wasting disease at this very moment. Hold your horses, you two, Dr. Adam cautioned with them. We can't be sure of that. But neither Mandy nor Amber listened to him. They resumed with their verbal tennis match. How do we even deal with it? Amber grabbed her crutches and stood up as if ready to hop all the way to the first breeder. First, we have to find out who the breeder is, Mandy said. She noticed Dr. Adam picking up the phone. Who are you calling, Dad? The veterinary drug supplier in Walton to order Portia's medication. We should be able to pick it up this afternoon. Mandy waited for him to finish placing the order. When he hung up, she said, You have another call to make, right? Her dad said nothing. To Parker Smythe to tell him about Portia, and to ask him for the breeder's address and the phone number, Mandy added, so we can tell the breeder about Portia's condition. That's all, said Mandy's dad, that he could read her mind. But she knew it was important to speak with Teresa Kramer. Her birds could be at risk. Do you think she agreed to see us? She asked Mr. Birch. I mean, she needs to know about Portia, doesn't she? Was Frisbee's operation over already? Mandy glanced at Amber and saw that she was looking expectantly at Simon. 8 Paradise Valley. Isn't that Teresa Kramer's place? He asked as he opened the cupboard and took out some instruments. Mandy nodded. That's where Portia came from. We need to see her and tell her that Portia's got Moscow wasting disease. It would mean leaving Amber behind because of her sprained ankle, but she probably wouldn't mind that much. Yes, and yes to both questions, said Simon, going to the door. But you'll have to wait for half an hour until we finish with Frisbee. How is he? Amber at last found the opportunity to speak, and Mandy crossed her fingers as she waited for Simon's response. Hard to say, he told them. He's still being operated on. Simon smiled at them. But don't worry, I promise, you'll be the first to know as soon as I have some news. Back to the most comfortable bed he's ever slept in. What did Simon mean by that? Mandy wasn't sure. Could it mean that the procedure was more difficult than Dr. Emily had anticipated? Still for a moment, so that they could all look at the puppy. But we'll have to wait a few days before we can give him the all clear. Frisbee lay sleeping in Simon's arms, his head cradled in the crook of his elbow. Apart from being very groggy, there was no obvious sign that he had an operation. Why does he have a bandage over his eyes? Mandy asked. The surgery wasn't invasive, Simon explained. It was more like doing a little sewing, putting a stitch in to repair a prolapse. Amber touched the top of Frisbee's head. Will he be asleep for long? Not too long, said Simon. We gave him a short-acting general anesthetic. He carried Frisbee to the cage and put him on the soft bed. The puppy must have felt the change from Simon's arms to the fleece blanket, because he opened his eyes and blinked. The affected eye was very swollen, but Mandy forced herself to look closely at it. The ugly pink lip was gone. Amber had noticed the change too. Frisbee, she whispered, putting a hand against the cage. You look fantastic. Even though everything must have looked a bit hazy, Frisbee seemed to recognize them. He whined softly and managed to wag the end of his tail before he closed his eyes again. Just then, Dr. Emily came in. I know it looks good, but that's because we've stitched the prolapse gland behind the third eyelid. Now we have to hope that the knot of the stitch doesn't rub on the cornea and cause an ulcer. I'll keep checking for that, but we'll have to wait until Friday afternoon before we know the final outcome, she cautioned them. Friday afternoon? That seems light years away. It was also the day before Halloween. Mandy suddenly remembered. Her mind started to race. Ghosts, witches, spells, magic, bad luck. She stifled the superstitions that crowded her mind. Part of Mandy's thought it was on the strangest request she's ever heard, but on the other hand, it seemed totally reasonable. Mrs. Kramer clearly loved the birds, even the ones that had gone to new owners. I will, she promised, silently echoed Mrs. Kramer's hope.
If he goes to a new home, she said quietly, and Mandy guessed she was worried about whether the operation could turn out to be successful. Dr. Emily came in. I need to take him for an eye test, she explained, picking Frisbee up from Amber's lap. Oh, he can see, Amber said confidently. He recognized us right away, and he could see his food bowl even before Mandy put it on the floor. "It's not his sight I'm testing," said Dr. Emily. Dr. Emily tucked Frisbee under her arm and massaged his ears. "If that's the case, I'll change his ointment. It just means the previous ointment prevented it from healing." She glanced back at Amber, who was biting a nail. Once her mom had gone, Mandy tried to take Amber's mind off Frisbee. She helped Amber to stand up, then gave her the crutches that had been propped in the corner. She'd had her first dose of medicine that night before, but she was still disappointed when Portia barely even glanced at them. Happy birds who swooped around their miniature Amazon jungle. Portia was so subdued that it was impossible to imagine her being anything like them. Mandy was changing Portia's drinking water when Simon came in with the next dose of medicine. "I thought I'd find you here," he said. "You could give me a hand with this." He gave the syringe containing the solution of crushed up pills to Mandy. "I'll hold her for you." He took Portia out of the cage and tucked her under one arm. He then opened her beak. "Okay, now," he instructed, and Mandy quickly squirted the medicine into Portia's mouth. The Parker Smiths were coming out from the restaurant when Mandy and the others arrived. "What's this, a holdup?" asked Mr. Parker Smith when James thrusted the collection can at him. "Not quite," said Mandy, laughing, "but don't be surprised if this little guy steals your heart." She opened the backpack so that Frisbee could show his winning face. James opened the box of chocolate. "Oops," he said in a small voice, "they're all gone." "No, there was 2 left," Mandy said. "You ate them, James." He shrugged. "I thought we ran out of people to ask for donations." So she wasn't simply a decoration in the Parker Smiths household, but a much-loved animal companion. Mandy beamed with delight. "She's got a sense of humor," she agreed. "She had James answering doors last night." "That sounds like Portia," said Mr. Parker Smith. "Good at playing tricks, but gorgeous as well." Just then, Frisbee wiggled wildly inside the backpack. Okay, said Mandy. She lifted him out and held him in her arms. She looked around with his ears pricked, or as pricked as his heavy floppy ears ever could be. "You're gorgeous too." And as they headed over to meet Amber's parents, the can full of donations making a very satisfying clinking sound, Mandy thought what an unusual Halloween week it had been. There had been tension, tears, and danger in big doses, but in the end, everything had turned out a treat. Thank you for listening to our story. We look forward to seeing you next week for our next story time. Have a good day.